So no better way to complement your home garden with some rain barrels and a pesticide-free lawn. And I'll be talking about that pesticide-free lawn part with the Good Neighbor Iowa program. So my name is Emily Dvorak. I am the Environmental Health Program Associate at the UNI Center for Energy and Environmental Education, and I get to manage the Good Neighbor Iowa program. So Good Neighbor Iowa is a statewide public health education initiative. We are managed out of the CEEE, but the work that we do does extend across the entire state. So that gets done through staff such as myself. And then we also employ student fellows from UNI. And we also have a local champion network that anyone across the state of Iowa is able to be a part of. Local champions are really just motivated community members who would like to see pesticide reduction happening within their communities. And local champions meet quarterly over Zoom to discuss challenges, things that are happening in the area, share resources, network, see if there's ways that we can leverage resources from others in the group, and really just try to continue to push for more pesticide reduction across the state of Iowa. So that is a little bit about how the work we do gets done. The mission of Good Neighbor Iowa is obviously to reduce unnecessary urban pesticide use. So really focusing on cosmetic pesticide use and eliminating that. And we also encourage people to sort of reframe how they view their lawn. So rather than desiring that perfectly manicured green lawn, we really try to promote a culture of diversity and show that diverse lawns are a way to protect child health, water quality, pollinators, biodiversity, pets, etc. We do this by partnering with key entities across the state of Iowa, primarily schools and childcare centers, because that is where children spend a majority of their time. But we also partner with Iowa residents, public parks, schools, or sorry, I already said schools, cities, and general businesses. Anyone who is managing lawn space can pledge to be a good neighbor. And that essentially just means that they are choosing to not use toxic chemicals on their lawns. And then we have interactive maps on our website where people can go and see across the state who has pledged to be a good neighbor. We do a lot of educational presentations and outreach such as this, as well as in-person events and tabling at different conferences and handing out yard signs. We also partner with UNI classes, and that is a big part of my job. Because Good Neighbor Iowa was actually started by UNI students, it's been really amazing to continue to engage with UNI students throughout the years. And so we craft interactive class projects with students so that they can become engaged in their community and meet with community partners and learn about the harmful effects of pesticide exposure as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about, things are a little out of order here, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what a pesticide is exactly, because we use that term interchangeably a lot of times with herbicide or insecticide, but really a pesticide is any substance with an active ingredient that is used to eliminate a pest. So it would be more of an umbrella term for herbicide and insecticide rather than being used synonymously. There's also, of course, other types of pesticides than herbicides and insecticides. Another common one for lawns would potentially be fungicides. And when we go to the store and we buy that pre-mixed package or pre-mixed bottle of Roundup or Weed Be Gone or whatever it may be, that pre-made package is actually only 2 to 3% active ingredients. So an active ingredient might be 2,4-D or MCPP, dicamba. Those are some really common ones for lawns. And that whole liquid concoction is only 2 to 3% of that active ingredient. The other 97 or 98% of that product are other or inert ingredients. that are not required to be listed on the label, and they also are unincluded in testing trials. And the reason why they don't have to disclose those ingredients is because of trade secrets. And we do see that, oops, we're gonna go back a slide. We do see that in independent testing trials, when those other ingredients are tested, they do potentially have greater endocrine disrupting properties than even the active ingredients sometimes. So can really throw off internal systems, hormone systems. A lot of them are hormonally active, and that can really mess with a whole slew of things, especially for children. Because children have a number of unique vulnerabilities, that has really become the focus of the Good Neighbor Iowa program. But unlike adults, children's bodily systems are still developing. They are far more susceptible to pesticide inhalation or ingestion through foods or through dermal contact. So their bodies are obviously smaller than adults as well. So pesticide exposure is going to have a greater impact because it is more per pound of body weight for a child. Children also breathe more. They eat more per pound of body weight than adults do. And so those pesticides that they are exposed to are going to have much greater impacts. And children behaviorally also have much more frequent hand and mouth movement. So if they are outside picking flowers or digging around in grass that's been sprayed, and those fingers end up in their little mouth, that is another way that we get ingestion exposures. And I guess when we're talking about exposures here, we of course are concerned about acute exposures where you'd have to call poison control immediately. But the ones that we're really talking about with these health effects are the prolonged chronic exposures to pesticides. And children are also just more in contact with turf than adults are, whether it's playing outside at recess or at home after school, or for sports practice or PE. Children are just spending a lot more time on turf than we get to as adults. So this exposure has been linked to neurobehavioral disorders, including ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, and childhood cancers, a lot of like soft tissue sarcomas, birth defects as well, strong linkages to endocrine and hormonal disruptions, and it is also a known asthma trigger. And for those of us who don't have children, we may have pets. So pets are also very sensitive indicators of environmental hazards. And it has been shown that dogs who are exposed or spend significant amount of time on exposed turf have a higher risk of developing bladder cancer as well as malignant lymphomas. And, you know, if you have a very active pet, they might be outside rolling around in that grass, digging around in the dirt, sticking their nose in it. And anything that gets on their paws or their fur, if your pet is also an indoor-outdoor pet, they will be then bringing that into the home and increasing the exposure to you and your family as those residues settle into your carpets or your blankets or your couches, your beds, wherever your pet may be. Water quality is another big concern. So an observational study done in Canada after a cosmetic pesticide ban, so cosmetic pesticides being for those aesthetic lawn purposes, we saw that concentrations in streams decreased from 16 to 92%, depending on the particular stream and herbicide. So they saw that pesticides certainly are harming our ecosystems, our aquatic ecosystems, and causing water quality decline. And finally, pollinators and biodiversity. Treated lawn essentially becomes non-habitat, so it's no longer safe for pollinators such as bees or butterflies. However, if we do leave our lawns be, as in managing with natural practices, we do see some of that biodiversity return and then be able to support pollinator populations once again. And we know that neonicotinoids are very toxic to bees and are linked to critical pollinator losses. So what can we do instead? I will say straight up, I'm not a lawn expert. However, at Good Neighbor, we have a great network of resources and a great network of lawn care experts who have helped us to kind of craft some suggestions for people. So we ask that people commit to an ecological approach and use cultural practices rather than chemical practices. That starts with soil testing, and a lot of these are going to be very similar to Maria's presentation, but we recommend soil testing every 3 to 5 years so that you can really know what inputs are needed for a healthy lawn specific to your lawn space. Also, mowing high by setting your mower blades to 3 to 4 inches will protect the ground from becoming bare and becoming exposed and letting things like weeds and funguses get in there. It's also important to sharpen your mower blades annually so that you get a sharp cut on your grass and you're not pulling that grass out and stressing out that turf, which would leave it susceptible again to those weeds and funguses. Aerating and overseeding is important, and using organic compost when we are over top of the aeration, and diversifying your lawn by using the native plants is a great way to have a more lush green space year round, because grass is not the most common type of grass is not native, and so it takes a lot of inputs to keep green throughout the year. And make sure that you're not overwatering. You want to water deeply and infrequently to avoid fungus. There's also it's also great to map areas that you can unmanage, so reducing your lawn size, maybe with a rain garden, native prairie areas, or pollinator habitat. So other ways that residents can take action: contact your local school administration or parent-teacher organization and tell them that it's important to you that they don't spray, and also with your childcare centers, because one of the most feedback that we get from schools and childcare centers is that they hear too often people complain about weeds, and they don't hear enough from people who understand the value of seeing those weeds as those are indicators that it is a natural, safe area for children to be. We also have yard signs at Good Neighbor. If you're interested in getting yard signs, please email. We would love to get you some. And we do have those at the CEEE where we can arrange a pickup time. We love to show off a natural lawn. And then it shows off to your neighbors that, you know, if you have a couple dandelions here and there, that it's intentional and that you're there to be feeding the bees and keeping your pets and children safe. If you are a policymaker or a change maker within your community and you have it within the ability of your organization to write in a pesticide-free policy, Good Neighbor has mock-up policies so that you don't have to write it from scratch. We would love to provide you with that resource so that you can get it into policy. Also, for anyone out there who's maybe a landlord or owns rental properties, we do have a landlord agreement, and we think that that is a really great way for you to showcase to your tenants that you're making sure that their health is a priority, and that that is really a selling point as to why someone would want to rent from you or use your space over someone else's. Also, another plug for the local champion network. Anyone is welcome to be a part of that. And again, that's just more so of an email group that meets quarterly over Zoom. And we provide special resources and trainings and education opportunities and networking opportunities for people to kind of gather around this idea of how we can keep reducing pesticide use in our communities. So here is our contact information. Please like us on Facebook. And this is the email and the phone number if you would like to get a hold of Good Neighbor. Also check out our awesome website for other additional resources and evidence of harm, and lawn care tips. Thank you.